You realised it was you. So now what? This is where most people can get stuck. Because what do you actually do with the information that you've now found out about yourself? If you've realised it is you, do you know the reasons why? Now, this could be for a number of things. This could be because of your circumstances. This could be because of your kids, your financial situation, whatever that may be. So realizing it's you may help you. Having awareness doesn't fix the problem. Some people just sit in awareness and nothing else happens. And that can be for a number of reasons as well. You can be aware that you're not making the effort, but that could be for the reason that you can't make the effort because of all the things that are holding you back. So I think, especially in dating in midlife, it's understanding where you are in it, what you're ready for, what you can actually have in your life at that time. Maybe someone that maybe can give you one day every 2 weeks. And like we said in the previous episode, that can be great for you. But like in everything, it takes two. It takes two people in everything to make things work. So it's about finding your piece of the puzzle if that's what you want. Now, for some of you out there, and we've had lots of feedback on the social platforms, it's that you just don't want to find someone. Now, like with many things, I think we can tell ourselves reasons and we can tell ourselves truths with not without actually being honest with ourselves. Sometimes it's really hard to be honest, and it's a case of, have you given up or do you not want to find someone? And I think they're two very different things. I think lots of us at times, and I know I did at times, um, when I was dating, is I would just have complete time away from it because I needed that for myself, because I wanted to get myself back to a place where I was comfortable in my life again. Because putting yourself out there all of the time does upset your life because it's different to the routine and it's change, and we're never the best with change, and the older we get the less we're better with change. So it's very difficult sometimes having someone in our life, but it's all about our approach. It's about what approach do we want to take. It's, do we want a peaceful life where no one's going to upset it, or do we want maybe a little bit of excitement that could cause a bit of chaos? And it may make us upset, it may make us frustrated, it may make us even angry at times. But sometimes they're emotions that remind us that we are actually living a life. And otherwise, what are we doing? We're getting up, we're going to work, we raise our kids and have mortgage, pay rent, whatever it is. But what are we actually waiting for? One day at the weekend when we can enjoy ourselves. I'm questioning that more and more as you get older now. Is what it's all actually about? What goals do we set for ourselves now? What achievements do we still want to get to? Um, I think for lots of us, we just get to the stage where we're just on autopilot. We're just on cruise control. We're just on the same road. We're used to that road, and we're not diverting from that road at all. Because if we go off, we might get lost. We might come off a slip road. We might get lost, and it might be difficult to find our way back to the road again. We're safe on. But, that could be an adventure. It doesn't, because it doesn't end well, doesn't mean it wasn't a valuable experience. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a great adventure. It can be something you can just enjoy. And I think we forget that as we get older. When we're younger, dating used to be something that was fun. It was because we had an abundance of time. We could make mistakes. Everyone was at the same sort of dating stage of their life. So that was a lot easier. And these things do make it harder when we're older. Everyone is in different places. Everyone wants different things, but we should still be having fun with it. We should still enjoy meeting new people, whether we like them or not. Whether it lasts a week, whether it lasts a fortnight, whether it lasts 5, 6 months. These are all people that will cross our paths in our life, and they will make our life richer. And you will make their life richer as well, in terms of just meeting different people, experiencing different things. And hopefully the goal is that eventually these experiences will actually help you. I know that I found this, that like, my experiences of knowing the situation that I was actually in when Zach was younger, my son was younger. I knew what I was putting people through like later in life. So when I've met people in the same situation that I was, I'm a lot more understanding of it. I'm aware of these things. I know that their kids are going to come before me, and I'm fine with that because I did the same thing. And I know that at times things are going to get cancelled last minute, but that's fine because I did the same thing. And I know at times I'm going to be frustrated, and I know at times I'm going to find it difficult, but that's okay because I knew that I was doing that to someone else. And it's about, I think someone hopefully will value that in me, the fact that I understand these things because I've actually been there. And I think that applies to many situations that we're all in. And maybe it's almost like meeting someone that has in a place that you was, so you understand it. And maybe that's the person that you should be looking for. Someone that you actually understand where they are, and they're so happy to have you because you understand it and you don't make it difficult, you don't give them grief about it, and you're aware of what the issues and what the problems may be. So you can understand and still repeat the same things that you do all of the time because I mean we are creatures of habit, right? We tend to do the same things. So if you're the sort of person that wears your heart on your sleeve, you might try to change that. For me, I always found that very difficult. I think I got to a stage with dating where I knew who I was and I stood by quite stubbornly at times thinking, right, this is me. You've either got to like it or don't like it. If it's too much for you, fine, leave. If it's not, let's stay, see where it goes. I was always told that, I was too honest with people. I, should play hard to get. That's either something you can or can't do. If I always found if I liked someone, I would tell them, and maybe I would tell them too early and maybe that scared them off. So be it. I didn't want to mess about and play games. Some people like the games. Everyone will tell you they don't, but some people actually do. They enjoy that, and they're good at it as well. I just wasn't a person that was good with it or good receiving it. If I ever thought someone was messing about and playing games with me, I'd end it as quick as that because I can't be bothered with that time. And I think as we get older, your patience for things becomes increasingly less, and you're not willing to put up with things. You might still be attracted to the same people, the same attraction. If you're attracted to a certain type of person, you're attracted to a certain type of person. And as much as people say, always go for the same sort of people, well, yeah, obviously, because that's what I'm attracted to, so it's it's understanding yourself a lot of the time and giving yourself a break over it. If you're attracted to drama, you're attracted to drama. Maybe you like it in your life, and maybe you realizing that and being honest with yourself and realizing that's you. It's not the other person, it's actually you, but just be comfortable with it and know that when this comes along that you'll have experience of dealing with it because you've always had this drama in your life because some people unless they've got drama, they just never seem to be happy. It's like they almost create drama for their own excitement because they need like that in their life. They need something to worry about. They need something to stress about. Others of us, like me, yeah, that's the last thing that we need. And I think that that's the point is it's finding people that want the same things as you. And if you're always going to the same patterns, the same attraction, you will always get the same outcomes until you don't. That's the other thing. We can say it's always the same outcomes, but if you keep at it and you want to keep at it, which is the main thing, it's eventually you'll find the piece of the puzzle that fits. And yeah, you're going to have to try a lot of pieces of puzzles, and they may not all fit. But it's important that You're giving it a go each time. And we're not getting into that point where comfort becomes the new problem and comfort becomes safety, but it also becomes our prison because we're never leaving it. We're not putting ourselves into a situation where we're uncomfortable, where things don't feel right, and you're worried that maybe the person that you're dating is cheating, or the person that you're dating is playing games, or whether you should call or where you shouldn't call, and all those things that go along with dating. They were exciting when we was younger. They become anxious when we're older. It's a different feeling because you just think, I'm too old for this shit. I really am. But it's all part and parcel of it. And it's not the situation, it's how we handle the situation. And as we're older, we seem to handle the situation worse, not better, for experience. And this good life that we've built, that we're in and we're doing every day, and we're at a point of where we're comfortable, we could sit in this life until the end and enjoy the things that go past. And like I said, it's the analogy of that. We could stay on the same road and we could look out the window and we could see some lovely scenery without ever going over to it. Oh, look at those. They're beautiful. Yeah, let's just keep going. Oh, look at that. That's great. Yeah, we'll just keep going until you run out of road. And that's the end of it. You know, Sometimes we need to be really brave, take a slight detour and get a little bit closer to these things that we like the look of. And we might get there and it might be a huge disappointment. But you could get there and it could be more than you expected, or you could be going towards that where you think you want to go and find somewhere else that's great along the way or on the way back. You never know. But, if your life is predictable and you're happy with that, don't feel like you've missed out, because in order to get more or want more, it's always a risk. It is always a risk. Dating's a risk. When you date people, you don't know what you're getting. They don't know what they're getting. You think you can know you. They think they can know them. And it just doesn't match up. And it makes the whole process extremely difficult. But if we can make it enjoyable, it's so much easier to cope with. Getting out of that comfort zone of where we are and what we're doing, and out of that peace that we can enjoy. But peace can block your connection to other people because you're not taking a chance. You're not trying anything new. You're sticking with the same old because it works for you. And if we're not moving forwards, we're standing still and everyone else is leaving us behind. Sometimes we've really got to put ourselves out of that comfort zone. And look, it can be a case of, you know, you can really enjoy it. And if you've lost stuff before, that's what you're scared of, is losing it again. Because as soon as something looks a bit rocky or there's a little argument in a relationship, it can make you think, "Oh, what am I going to do if this all goes wrong? If this all goes wrong, where am I?" You'll be fine. If it all goes wrong, you'll be fine because you've done it before and you got yourself there before. You won't drown. You'll just keep swimming and you'll get there. And it will hurt, but you know that you can do it. And I think that's one thing that I found comfort in, is realizing that I'm going to be okay. If this all goes south, yeah, it'll be upsetting and I'll be hurting, but I'll be okay because I've got those stable things around me that will always be there. I can always get back on that road again. It might take me a while, it might be an absolute pain in the ass, but I'll get back there again until I'm ready to find another route again and try something new. When you meet people, I know it's a common thing that people say that you're unavailable. You're not there. You're not available for other people to meet. Lots of the time, it's not that you're unavailable. It's that you're controlled. You're measured. You take thought in things that you do. You're balancing your life that you've already got with looking at something that may be new and how that's going to fit in with it. So you're careful. You're measured in the time that you give to someone because your time is precious. You're measured about who you let into your life because your life is guarded, your life is peaceful, your life is safe. So we want to make sure that we're taking it easy, taking a step at a time, taking one step at a time. And that's absolutely fine because if we're taking one step at a time, we're still moving forward. And that's the important thing, especially with dating and all the problems that we have with dating. They are just problems. You know, they're all there for everyone. Everyone says the same things all the time. You know, the pool of dating people that you're looking at, you know, annoyance that people ghost you, all these things that you have problems with, so do everyone else. Everyone has the same problems. Everyone is doing the same to each other, men to women, women to men to men, women to women, whatever your persuasion is, people do the same things, unfortunately. That's just part of it. And that's part that you have to deal with and you have to understand and you have to take for what it is, and it's just part of the dating scene, really, that you're going to be around if you want to take a detour, you know, and knowing the risks sometimes can make you more aware of what will be coming. And as a person, you'll grow because experiences, they help us in so many ways of dealing with all sorts of things. We become more resilient, we become stronger, we become to know ourselves more, we become to have experiences. These sad stories that we can have one day, in 2 years' time, could be stories that you are actually finding humour in now and you tell to your friends. I know I do about a lot of my stories that, you know, when I was in them, they were horrific, but 2 or 3 years later, I look back and I find humour in them, and it's an experience that I had. I think I was asked this the other day that if I look back now on a relationship that I had in my where I thought I was getting engaged and maybe married, if I could have that life again and not have the life I've had since then, with all of its ups and downs and the meeting of different people and the experiences I've had, which one would I choose? I'd go for the life that I had, that I have had, because I've had so much fun doing it. Yeah, at times it's been a nightmare, and it took me quite a long time to get over that relationship. But after that, I had a blast. And you know, and I don't think I would have wanted missed out on that. If you showed me two reels of where my life could have been and where my life actually was, I had a great time. I met some great people, and you know, I wouldn't have given that up. I don't think, you know, for what could have just been a different life completely, because we we travel the roads that we're on and we take the detours that we do, and it's all part of the journey. And I think you've got to learn to enjoy it, and you've got to learn to appreciate it for what it is. It's what it's about. It's things that we'll pass on to our kids from those experiences. And I know now with my son that, you know, I've got a wealth of experiences, especially with dating and with women that I can actually share with him and understand, more importantly. So I know what he's going through. So I'm not going to ask all those questions that, you know, you didn't want someone to ask you when you was going through that. And just knowing or having more experience of what you think is the right thing to do can be invaluable, especially to your kids. And you know, so I don't think I would have ever wanted to miss out on that life that I had, although the other life could have been good. But again, you never know. You know, we look back so much on our lives and where we are and what we're doing. And you never know how that would have turned out anyway. It could have been a disaster 2 years down the road that you wanted to get out of instead of the opposite way around. Who knows? So if you're only ever letting people into your life on your terms, that can work two ways. That can work for you and against you, but it all depends upon the person. And I think it's the other person that needs to understand what you're setting out. And I think be honest about it. If you're dating someone new and you're straight up front with them in the beginning and say, listen, this is my life. I have these times available, not always those that available. But if you're happy with that, that's fine. But if you're going to want more than that, I'm not going to be able to give it to you at the moment. And things do change. Things are always changing. You might be in a situation now where your kids are young and they need more time, and you're picking up, you're dropping off, and you're going to ice skating, then you're going to football, and then you're going to ballet, and then you're going to netball, and then you're going to a homework club or whatever it may be, and you just don't have time in your life. That's not always going to be the same. In 10 years time, when your kids are 14, 15, you will have more time because they will start to do their own things, they'll start to get their own independence, and then you can start to give that person more time if they're still there. If not, that may be a time when you can give more time to someone else you meet. And timetabled relationships aren't necessarily a bad thing. They can give you the best of both worlds, where you can keep your independence and you can have a girlfriend, have a boyfriend. It may only be for every other weekend. Now, this is going to be very different depending on if you're male or female and whether you're dating a male or female as well. Because stereotypically, most of the time that I've found that if I'm meeting women and they've got kids, that they're going to have the kids for the majority of the time. Not always. Sometimes it's 50-50. Sometimes it's not. And so a majority of the time that I found, they had the kids nearly all the time. So their time was very in between, sort of being unavailable to available, more often than not unavailable, because of the commitments that they had. And depending upon how they were with their ex-partner, there could be a lot of problems within that as well. So, lots of time when I did spend time with them, or, it was, they had all these problems going on as well. And sometimes they just wanted to talk about these problems. Now, if you're a man dealing with that, sometimes that may be not what you want. You might just think, only if someone else's problems. Then, if that's the case, you know that those women aren't for you in the first place anyway. But maybe that's all they need, and maybe that's something you didn't do when you was in your last relationship. Was just sometimes listen enough, and just understand what other people are going through, because that can be a big thing in a relationship. Is just understanding where we both are and what we both need. If you're a woman dating a man that's got their kids a lot, you'll find it very difficult as well. Because I know that that was the case a lot of the time with in my relationships, that women found it very strange that I'd spent so much time with my son, that he was with me so much, that because that would normally wasn't the case. And then they would be second. Where if you're dating a weekend dad, let's say, he's going to have loads of time. And that could be a great thing for you if you've got loads of time. But if he's a weekend dad, he's not going to want to spend time always with your kids because he's not spending time with his own kids. And do you know what? If he did want to spend more time with your kids, as a mother, I'd be thinking, well, why don't you spend more time with your kids? Like, that makes no sense. So we're all in these different places, and it depends upon your outlook and what you're doing. If you're someone with kids, or you're, like I said, a weekend dad where you only have them every other weekend, then you're going out more and more, you're going to have more and more time. And I think this is the big thing on the dating sites, where you've got a lot of women that are on dating sites that have got their kids more often than not, and you've got a lot of guys that are on dating sites that are weekend dads. So they're able to put a lot more time and investment into a lot more things that are going on. And because they've got more time and they're probably a little bit bored, they're doing more and more. So they're you may be sitting there as a woman thinking, right, I've got one weekend that's on 2 weeks' time, and you're trying to sort something out for 2 weeks' time. Well, this guy's like, I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I want to see someone, this week, and I want to see someone at this weekend because I've got my kids that next weekend. So timetabling relationships can be so difficult, and it can make things so hard when you've got to find a balance of where we are. It can be either if you've both got the kids the same age, you'll be in a place where you understand it. It may be one of you has older kids, one of you has younger kids, but the person with the older kids understands the other situation as well because they know what that looks like, what that feels like, and they can be more supportive. So it's about finding characters that are in people that suit your situation as well. The whole thing on relationships is the risk question. Are you willing to be uncomfortable again? Are you willing to risk your peace, your security, your safety to be uncomfortable again in a situation where you may be wondering if someone's called or reading a text a few times or thinking how you're going to fit everything in? That can cause, depending on which way you look at it, either excitement, which is living, or anguish and uncertainty, which for some people now is hell. They don't want that in their life. We've always got every time you do something new, it's a risk. A new job, it's a risk. You don't know how that's going to turn out. Lots of the time we jump around in jobs because of more money, and that's what makes us go. But if we looked at relationships the same way we looked at jobs and say there's more love if I'm with someone, I can find more love. So wouldn't you risk that? Wouldn't that be your drive rather than 10 extra grand maybe to move a job where you could hate everyone and last 5 minutes? If someone said, right, you can have a lot more love over here if you risk dating this guy or dating this girl, would you not do it? Or would you just stay where you are because you're better with the devil you know and your comfort because there's no change? It's not getting to know anyone new. It's not taking you out of this place that you've built where everything is stable and everything is set and it's going to be the same forever and ever until you're no longer here. So, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do with that question? Are you willing to be uncomfortable again? Lots of you aren't. But be honest with yourselves. Why are you not willing to be uncomfortable again? Because you're scared of getting hurt, or you're scared of not getting yourself back, or not making it back to where you are now? Or are you just scared full stop? And what you can do about that, if you can do anything at all. And I think that's where we get to in dating. It's like most of you, I'm sure, would have, like I did many times, laid in bed at night just thinking, geez, there's billions of people in the world. I must be able to meet one that just fits in with me. Of course there is. It's just what we're willing to do to actually get there. And if we're willing to risk our safety, our comfort, and our peace, if it gets too peaceful, it can be boring. The sound of silence is great sometimes, but you'll always be able to get back there. We need to risk sometimes for reward. It's putting ourselves out there sometimes. Growth in dating isn't awareness, it's changed behavior. We can be self aware as much as you want to be about everything, but unless we're going to do anything about it, what's the point of being self aware? I'm self aware that I'm a complete idiot, but if I don't change it, I'm always a complete idiot. It's just that one more person knows, and that person's me. So it's about changing our behavior, and our behavior can change with time. Like we said in the last episode, it's all about timing. So if you're making the same mistakes, it may be because of where you are, and you'll always make those mistakes at that period in your life because that's just where you are. You might see them as mistakes, but maybe they're just outcomes that are always going to be in place because it's the same actions, because you're bound by the same actions, because of your lifestyle, kids, financial, whatever it may be. But as those situations change, so do your opportunities. So your outlook on dating mustn't always be, this is how it is. It can be, this is how it is at the moment, but that might change. But that doesn't mean that in this moments that you've got where you are now, you shouldn't just enjoy dating. Don't think where I am at the moment and my relationship is I stopped thinking about it so much. And it worked for me on this occasion. I think I've done that before and it went horribly wrong. But, it's timing. It's probably a time that I was in my life where I thought, I'll just see what happens. And it's going okay. And we'll do more on that in future podcasts because with with all of that, it becomes other issues, other problems, and that we can talk about. But it's it's making sure that you realize where you are, you're self-aware, but you're doing something about it, and realizing that it's okay just to enjoy dating. It doesn't always have to go somewhere right now, but it's it's adding to the tapestry of your life all of the time, and it may not always seem it, but it will do. And eventually you'll get to where you want to get to if you keep at it. But if we just stay in this safety and our peace, it can provide comfort, but it also can be a prison that you're not getting out of. And sometimes we just need to enjoy life. Thank you for listening today on Fitzchaz and Gray. Make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you follow and make sure you feedback. I'll always try to get back to any questions that you may have. Take care. Enjoy. Catch up soon.